Welcome to the first Ask Me Anything session that's being hosted by the Society for Creative Anachronism page and our very special This Week in Diversity, Equity and Inclusion. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today and pay my respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I'd also like to pay my respect to the elders of all cultures who are participating with us today. Thank you. Your knowledge continues to enrich us. So, hi, I'm Anne. I'm the Society Social Media Officer. I'm a Laurel, I'm a Pelican, and I'm currently a landed Baroness in Lockhart. But most of you will come to know me from my work as Society Social Media. We've decided to do these Ask Me Anything sessions as a way for you to get to know a bit more about us as the officers who run the two newest corporate offices in the SCA, and also a bit about our office. So we're going to take a little bit of time, allow you to ask us some questions. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions before. We always like a little bit of time to prep. With that, I'm going to hand over to Jessica. Now, I'm Anne. She's Zara. We will probably split between Bridget and Jessica. But then, like some of our favourite live programs that are running at the moment, there is no drinks game. So...
Oh my gosh.
Zara, over to you. Hey, got it right.
Thank you. We will definitely mess up these names. Sorry. But yes, I'm Jessica / Zara. I am the SCA DEI officer. I am super excited to be doing this because the two of us have spent so much time working together and getting to know one another. And it's been a pretty crazy year for both of us. So we are both very excited to get the opportunity to chat a little bit and answer some questions for everyone. Go ahead and submit them in chat for the Facebook Live, and then I'll keep checking back and I'll pull any that we can answer during our time. So let's jump in. Are we good?
We are good.
Awesome. All right. Question number 1. What is the best thing you've ever eaten at an SCA event?
Okay. I'm a culinary Laurel, so food is one of my nerd things. And I am incredibly lucky that Lockhart, one of the things we do well is we cook. Apparently we do some of the largest catered events in the known world. Like I'm talking anywhere up to 350, 400 catered places are some of the absolute largest ones we've ever done. But on average, if you go to a feast in Lockhart, it will, like an event in Lockhart that includes a feast, it will be catered. The best thing, my absolute number one best thing that I've ever eaten at an SCA event is a recipe from Sabina Wellsren, who is a 16th century sort of German, as we now know her. Writer, and she was a sort of someone who worked with her steward to write down things. But Mistress Gertrude von Ritzenbuttel makes a pastry of small birds. Now, these are little pies. You can do them as big pies. It just depends on the workload. But what it is, it's like quail, bacon, grapes, quail, bacon, grapes, lay it in your pie case, and then you put your top on, and then you put a hole in the top, and then you pour in sweet wine, and then you cook that. And seriously, you haven't lived. Recipe can be made available. Mistress Gertrude is incredibly generous, and I have a copy of that recipe because we work together quite a lot when we're in cooking mode. But damn. Now, interesting thing, would have been, the quail would not have been boned pre-17th century. But for a modern audience, we're very used to having our pies not have crunchy bits that we don't anticipate. So bone your quail. You can also do them with chicken if you're a bit unsure. But yes, I thoroughly recommend them. So having nerded about that.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so good.
It's just delicious. Jessica, what is the best thing you've ever eaten at an SCA event?
So I am very food motivated. There have been many a meal that has put me into raptures. One of my first events, though, it really stands out because it was so early for me in the SCA. There was a pear and marzipan tart, and it was this like light custard, like a marzipan custard, and then these poached pears throughout. Oh my gosh, it remains probably one of the best things I've ever eaten. Um, I had reached out to try to get the recipe and I'd completely screwed it up. Like, I don't know what I did wrong. It was basically just like pear almond soup that I 1,000% still ate. But something about the way they made it was just, oh my God, it was divine. And one of these years, I will definitely try to make it again. But I did not succeed that first
Was
time.
fresh marzipan like this whole revelation to you when you found the SCA? Because like
I
I'd
think it
only ever
was.
had the shop bought marzipan, and like for me personally, respecting anyone who it's their jam, I don't try to yuck other people's yums. It's that sort of thing of just, but almond extract is nasty. It does not agree with Anne's. It's just not good. And then I come to the SCA and here's people making their own marzipan, and it's amazing. That tart sounds great. I would like the recipe, please.
I will definitely
I've
look it up.
Yeah, I've just noticed that we're having a bit of problems with our captions. Thank you for letting us know. We're going to try and get that sorted. So
I
hopefully,
see them on my screen, and I'm seeing them if I open the actual full video, I'm seeing them at the
yeah,
bottom of the screen.
right.
So, are people still having struggles with seeing them?
If people could let us know in the comments if you're still having trouble with captions, and we'll do our best because we can see them from our end.
Yeah, you may need to turn them on in the actual thing itself, but there should be captions because I can see them on the Zoom and then I can see them in the Facebook video that I have open.
Okay.
But we'll troubleshoot as we go. We're doing it
Hey,
live.
it's what we do.
Oh god.
Okay. So now I'm slightly hungry. And next time we do this, Sarah, we should bring snacks.
Go first.
Because everybody loves snacks.
Go first.
Okay, going on to our second question. What should everybody try at least once?
Um, I'm gonna say archery because I got my start in the SCA in the archery community. I watched Lord of the Rings at a very formative age, and I was like, I want to be an elf. This is what I want. And then when I found the SCA, I was like, oh my god, my time has come, and it was the most amazing thing ever. Um, and I still do it whenever I can. I know a lot of folks maybe are interested, but they don't quite get a chance to try because the archery range is usually way off for safety reasons. But definitely try it. At least near us, there's always loaner gear. There's so many people who are so helpful and friendly and excited to teach new people, and you get to feel like an elf. So you should definitely try archery.
Or the really cool foxes from Robin Hood's Disney, which may have been the formative thing for me in archery because, yeah, I don't do it anywhere near as much as I want, particularly as one of my students is a member of the Lockhart Company of Archers. Um, you know, and if you're ever coming to Lockhart, you've got to try archery, particularly if you're a combat archer. We do things a little different over here, and our combat archers, I think, are just absolutely amazing, and they're a thing to be recognised and forced to be reckoned with. For
So how about
me,
you?
yeah, I would say dance. Um, you know, because I don't know, like a lot of us come to the SCA and we're like, we're nerds. We found our people. It's an amazing thing. But we're used to not doing that kind of social thing. And a lot of us come with preconceived ideas about what we can and we can't do. And for me, dance was one of those. I'd kind of go, no, thing. I don't do it anywhere near as much as I want to, but I really love it, and it adds something magical to an event. My best friend, his sort of experience of the SCA when he first turned out, he describes it as walking into a hall where none of the women had feet. Um, but people were dancing, and you watching people in medieval dress dance, and it just adds something. And if you're in any of the martial sort of elements, it adds. It's great practice. Footwork is always important. Um, But not only that, is there is all different sorts of dance in the SCA, and we need to explore it. And it is one of the things that helps make us a more authentic experience overall. So I would absolutely say get stuck in and dance.
Yes, love that. Um, I try dance and I am not usually that person who can coordinate very well with it. But it's just so fun and it's so immersive. I agree with that. Everyone should try it. All right. This is a little bit of a bigger one.
Okay.
What's the SCA myth you'd like to debunk once and for all?
I probably have a top two. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Of
cool.
course.
Um, we make our own rules. You know.
It's our show.
um, so I would say probably my first one is that the amount of time you've been playing the game is important when you want to give feedback or contribute or stuff like that. The absolute strength of our game is that our basic requirement is that you follow our rules, you make an attempt at pre-17th century, and you're polite and courteous. And that means we've got space in our game for people who want to be skin out absolute lifestyle reenactors who go right into experimental archaeology and do that. And we've got space for people who want to put on a costume and hang out with their mates. And all of that sits side by side and is together. And it's because of that, if we ever lose that space, and that spectrum, we're going to lose the richness of our game. So you're really important in that. Your words and your space, and speaking up is hugely important about making us better and helping us grow. We are not the same costume party that happened 56 years ago. You know, we're not. We are more. And we are more because people came to their first event or their third event or their 50th or their years event, and they gave feedback on and ideas on how to make it better. So there's a bit so Lockhart was a principality of the West. So we have in the fealty oath to speak and to be silent, you know, and I would encourage everybody to speak because you are valued and you are important. And if we don't hear your voice, we can't change and we can't grow. So that's probably my big one. It's just that. The other one is I would lay money that you think the peerage orders get a hell of a lot more recommendations than they do. Because they do not. They really, really do not. So if you've ever had the thought, why isn't so and so a peer? And you've not put a pen to paper or, it's 2020, fingers on a keyboard, you know, that is partly on you. The Crown need you to tell them, and you don't have to be a peer to recommend someone to be a peer. It is recognized by the populace, and the Crown listen to their people and they elevate people to the orders. So please, if you think about it, write a recommendation. And that goes for recognizing people at every sort of level of our game. But that's probably the big thing is the peerage orders get bugger all recommendations and they need your help. So put them in. We want to know.
Love that. Snap. Um, so I'm gonna do two as well. I'm gonna do one for my office and
That seems
one
only
for
fair.
the general SCA. So for the DEI office, let it be said, put this in stone. I do not investigate reports. I don't kick people out. I don't do any of that. That is all the seneschalate. I am advisor, education. That's me. So DEI is not kicking anybody out. We're not canceling anybody's personas. We're not coming for you. I promise.
I think you said
I'm just here.
recently that it's DEI is simply about making sure that everyone has the opportunities to have as much fun and the same experiences as everybody else. And that I just love that.
Absolutely. I want people to have the chance to love this game as much as I do. And that's it. And my second one is I don't think that people should be afraid of applying for positions or handing out tokens or anything else because they're not peers. I am not a peer, but I did still apply for this job and I'm here and I'm doing it and I'm
Awesome.
doing whatever I can and I'm taking advice and I'm listening to people and I'm learning from everyone around me and everyone does that no matter what awards they have. So don't be afraid. Just because you're not a peer, don't feel like you can't do things, that you can't apply for things. You can. We are all here together, valid, and we all bring different things to the table. So that's my second thing. Um, which is a little bit more soapboxy, but
Hey, but no drinking game.
we don't have a drinking game.
We should
I
make a
will-
drinking game. Well, nice. No, no, we are responsible grown-ups.
we're
No, no. It's a really interesting thing that it's the thing that the SCA offers all of us is space. We have structures around which in which we, build our game around, but we it offers everyone space to play and to do the game in that way. And one of the things that the best thing anybody can do is make somebody feel seen. So yeah. And some of our best innovations have come from people who've joined. So I cannot second your myth busting more than enough. That's absolutely.
right back at you.
Ah. Jessica and I have spent an awful lot of time working together this year, as you can all
Really?
imagine. So it's I was very tempted to submit the question, what is your favorite corporate office and why is it social media? And then we found out that she was very tempted to submit the what is your favorite corporate office and why is it DEI? So, we work well together.
It's true.
Thinking about that, how did you come to get your current SCA job?
Okay. So I am a person of color, and there are not a lot of people of color in the SCA, and it's a different experience. So for the first few years I was in the SCA, because I have not been in the SCA very long. I joined in late 2016, so that makes 4 years. Um, and the first couple years were a little bit different than anything I had experienced before. Um, and not always in good ways, unfortunately. So when this position came up, they were taking applicants. And I had the same hesitation that I just said people should not have. And I was like, I'm new, I'm not a peer. I don't know if this is something that anyone, but I have mundane equity and inclusion experience. And I wanted to solve some of the problems that I had lived through as a person of color. So I applied, I was interviewed, and I ended up getting it. And then we ended up in this pandemic, like, and then there was a civil rights uprising in the US, and there's a lot. Um, but originally, it was kind of just kismet, I guess. And then I just ended up here, and it's been a wild, unexpected ride. Like I could never have predicted any of this. Um, but I will say, I would not have gotten to work with social media as much as I have if we had not had, in these unexpected times, TM. Um, so I'm kind of grateful on that level. But yeah, so how did you get your current SCA job?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Apparently, and I'm really open to being corrected. So, Lockhart and other known world peeps, please correct me. I am apparently the first Lockhart person to hold a known a society an SCA Inc. office or role. We've had members on the Grand Council when that was still happening, but this is a slight. So I've been in the SCA a little bit longer than Zara, which is I found it in 1992. Um, you know, and I've done a different bunch of sort of roles in the SCA. Um, Most of them have been sort of the admin sort of stuff. Like um, I was Lockhart Exchequer for way too long, and I've been like a chronicler and a sort of and a baronial seneschal, and then the role of Lockhart Hospitaller or Chatelaine came up. And I went, I think I can do some stuff here because on a sort of mundane background, I have experiences in sort of knowledge strategy, which is about culture and people. And I also have marketing and sort of experience previously in sort of the not for profit sector, doing some work in that sort of space. Um, and one day, the Lockhart Kingdom Seneschal got an email going, "Hi, who's your Kingdom social media office?" And at that point, we had a brief conversation, and paper scissors rocked. And I don't know if I won or I lost, but I did. And so my office at that point, Hospitaller, was responsible for social media, which meant that we were building the Lockhart Facebook page, and we were doing the Instagram account, and playing a little bit with Tumblr, and looking at a couple of other different trials sort of things to see what worked. Had Twitter and various things going there. And I ran a meme competition that kind of went a bit viral, which was, and it turns out I've got a knack for that sort of thing. But the other thing that happened was that we had a bit of an experience at the society level, in when the situation in Caid happened several years ago around the trim, and the whole social media core was working really well with at then, well, he's now Sir Tiberius, but Tiberius, who was the society social media officer at that time. But because of the roles that I've had, I was looking at it from a couple of different fronts, and some of those were around crisis communication and how we manage our messages and how we connect with people. And it meant that I started to work with him really closely, and became like, I worked with him. I also worked with Kelly McGill, who's Society Communications, and we started to look at how we could do strategies. And then that sort of evolved over the next year or two. And then one day Ross went, "Hey, you want to be my deputy?" And I went, "Okay, can I think about it briefly?" And not because it's not an awesome opportunity, it was just because I just found out I was about to become a landed baroness, and I wanted to make sure that I could do the jobs. So one of the things that's really important to me as a pelican is that pelicans are not martyrs. And if you're working on that aspect, it's not healthy for you and it's not healthy for the game. So I took a time as deputy to work out if I could do the job without harming myself or others or the endeavor. And that's something I would recommend as your test. Yeah. But after that, um, it had been about 10 months, and Tiberius and I were talking, and he went, "Are you gonna?" And I went, "Sure, let's do this thing." Um, and then the role changed to a corporate office, so I reapplied with the board, and the board, after reviewing things, I was honored that they selected me. And then we got a global pandemic, and all of the SCA moved online. And I may have said to Ross that he kind of dodged a bullet on that one, but you'll hear me say this over and over again. Be incredibly kind to your web people, your social media people, your seneschal. These are all people who have worked constantly through this. So, but it's a fascinating role. I'm going to do my time and sort of then move on, because I don't believe you should overstay your time in an office. But it's exciting, and I get to work and know people better. The interkingdom anthropology is amazing.
I bet. I mean, it's got to be really interesting being kind of our sole person from Lockhart when, I mean, if no one's ever done it before. I had not realized you were the very first.
We've had definitely had people working on things at a society level, but I think I'm the first sort of corporate type person from Lockhart. So um, I have an amazing deputy, which is great because time zones are not always my friends. Um, but it's
Never.
hey, look, this is a great time. It's currently nearly sort of just after midday here in Australia where I am. So um this is a great time for me at the moment. Some of the early morning ones, a little less friendly, but if I didn't love the game and I didn't love the work, I wouldn't do it. So yeah, as I said,
It just occurred to me. I am the resident night owl. So
ooh.
yeah, I'm like, this friendship makes so much sense. All right. Is it me to ask the next one?
um
I lost track. It's been so little
it,
time and I'm
it's I you're on odds, so yes.
okay. That is helpful. All right. What makes you nerd out in the SCA?
um Somewhere in Lockhart, a whole lot of people are gonna roll their eyes. Mustard. Mustard makes me nerd out so hard. Um, my laurel is in sort of the social history of mustard, as well as the culinary aspects of it, with a sort of secondary in feasting and menu design and that sort of thing. But I had always done various things in the SCA that were arts related, but then I had found this third. So there's a strap yourselves in. We're going hardcore nerd.
Oh,
So there is a third century AD recipe from a Roman writer called Columella, and it is the oldest extant mustard recipe of which we are aware. It doesn't mean like mustard is much older than that, but in terms of actual recipe. So I had this recipe that I was using, and I was doing it at the time, and I went, "This is kind of cool." Um, and then we were doing what is known in Lockhart as the Good Food Feast, but in probably an equivalent in the States would have been the Perfectly Period Feast.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the Good Food Feast. The first one was 25 years ago now, but it was the 20th anniversary of this event. And the original team had pulled some of us in, like, because I'm a second generation member of that team, to work on that. And I got asked, could I make my mustard? And I said, well, no, not really, um, because that's a third century recipe and we're doing 16th century Dutch lowlands. And I went, it's tasty, but look, let me see what I can find. But then in a 16th century Dutch cookbook, I found another mustard the Roman way. And except for a few elements, it was almost identical to this recipe that was 1300 years sort of, you know, before it. And that got me down a rabbit hole of going, well, how did it? What did it? What else is going on? What houses? And I sort of fell into it at that point. And I promise that if any of you are ever trapped in a room with me, feel free to make the no, we've talked enough about mustard sign, and I will stop talking about mustard. But it's tasty, it's delicious, and it's a simple way. If you want to make your SCA eating experience more authentic in the majority of cultures that we've explored, particularly in sort of European um, and even in some of our Asian cultures, mustard is definitely the thing to put on your table. So it's a simple thing you can do to make your participation more authentic if that's your jam. Delicious, that's also cool. What makes you nerd out before I go into much more of a mustard rant?
I mean, I have learned more about mustard having you as a friend than I think I've thought about like
Or
mustard and
cared about. Uh, I respect that.
love it. I'm not mad about it at all. What makes me nerd out? So I am super into food, but I think even larger than that, I love seeing any sort of African persona or research. Um, I had not realized when I first joined the SCA that we could just kind of do whatever we wanted. Um, and we could pursue study about basically anything within the time period. And
Totally.
so I started Norse because tea tunics are easy to sew. And I needed to start somewhere. And I loved it. And then I saw someone doing Ethiopian and was like, that's the one. That's where I'm going. Um, it's so cool every time I see any research having to do with African anything. I love all of the Egyptian stuff that I see go by. I've seen a lot of like Moroccan food and research, and that's amazing. I now do Ethiopian. The other person I know who does Ethiopian does a coffee making, it's almost like a demo, but she'll roast the beans and she'll have the full, and Ethiopian coffee is very much like Turkish coffee. It's rich and dark and just amazing. It's amazing. And I geek out over all of it. It is 100% my jam. I love it. It makes my soul smile. So it's got to be the
That's the
African anything within the SCA.
But
But
there's so much to explore in Africa, like just the empires and the nations. And because
right,
we come at history primarily for most of us from this sort of Western European bias, where history is written by the winners, and so therefore they write it from their perspective. So, but there is so much to learn about these places, and like Ethiopia is fascinating. Zara and I've been chatting a little bit about it, just even from a sort of perspective, and much like her, I'm going, oh, I want to know more. Particularly, if nothing else, is like Lockhart can get really, really hot. Um, and Ethiopian seems like it might be very suited um, from a sartorial perspective for dealing with that. So,
indeed. I'm going to ask you a quick question that came up
okay.
related to what you were just talking about. I'm adding all the other questions to the end, and we'll get there.
Hmm.
But the question is, do you know the type of mustard plants for the Roman recipe? Are the plants or seeds available?
So you're probably looking at one of the things that we know from that is, um, okay, so the oldest mustard plant of which we know is a plant called Brassica nigra, which is black mustard. And the reason we know it's the oldest is because it is a diploid. And we also have found, and diploid means in terms of its cellular structure, it has two branches as opposed to multiple branches. There is archaeological, sort of archaeobotanical evidence of it for several millennia. In it is fact, so we know it's there. So Brassica nigra and Brassica juncea are the two that I would suggest you look at if you're looking at Roman um, sort of things. We know that the taste structures are pretty similar. When black mustard starts coming in from Africa to Rome, it is highly prized. But then, because it comes, and mustard is incredibly good at growing, the brassicas will just grow and hybridize their little hearts out. You can actually track, for example, Roman digs, the Roman presence around England by looking at the various middens and stuff like that, because there is mustard, there is black mustard that comes um, into uh, into England with the Romans. So it is basically Brassica nigra and Brassica oleracea that are the two that I would suggest that, and your flavor profiles will be pretty correct.
Killing it.
Oh.
Killing it. I don't know
Feel
what
feel
else
feel free to hit me up. I can talk about this more. So
all right. I think your
we're
question.
on an even. Okay. Which makes it me. So, what is an SCA thing you'd love but never want to try?
Ooh. Oh, that's hard. Um,
See, I made you go first.
a thing that I love but would never want to try. Um, I'm actually gonna go with blacksmithing because I love the product and I love watching people do it from a distance, but I am A, klutzy, and B, not good with heat. And I feel like this would end in my sweaty ass in a hospital somewhere. And I don't feel like that would be a really cute look for me.
Huh.
So I'm gonna
No harm
leave
to self. Yes.
I'm gonna leave that to people who are much better at it than me. And I am just going to enjoy the fruits of their labor.
Mm. Um, that okay, that is entirely fair, and it is just very much that because I was going, oh, take blacksmithing off my list, right?
It might
Go.
be for you.
Um, for me, I would actually say it's weaving. Like, um, I have such awe of the amazing things that our weavers can generate and create, and like the pattern work, and then the thing. But oh, it's so fiddly, and there's all these strings involved, and then there's the yeah. It's not. It is not my art, and but it's just such an appreciation for it. But it is not my jam, and I'm not going to go with that. So, because I've looked at it and I've gone, no, I could try, and I just don't want to. I would much rather appreciate the amazing artists that we have in the SCA and go with that. So
Totally.
that, yes.
All right. Why do you think your office matters to the SCA?
um, I think it's twofold. Our world has changed. Our world has changed, and our traditional recruitment paths that we may not have had, that we may have had, are no longer always as effective as they once were. And this is before COVID. Um, so it's in terms of that. So some of like not all of the universities will take colleges. Like I know in Lockhart, it's something we struggle with at times. Our colleges, which were a very traditional way of recruiting, we have some that are really active, but we have others that have gone into sort of sleep for a while the activity they're a bit dormant. So um, demos and things like that, you got to think about bang for your buck, particularly in terms of your community. So I think the SCA is in like needs social media to make people aware of what we do and that this is an amazing, rich, diverse hobby. It helps tell people what we don't do, and it also opens it up. But the other thing it matters is because it connects people. Um, and we've seen that this year. Like if we didn't have social media this year, would have been harder. And it's been hard enough. So let's go with that. You know, it helps. I know, like at the moment, take for example, at the moment this weekend, Drachenwald University is happening. They have 8 Zoom streams, 90 teachers, 600 participants. From like they've worked out, they think they potentially have representatives from 30 countries, and that is outstanding. But it's also something that we may not have done unless we were forced into doing it. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to take the good aspects when it comes through for, you know, when we get back to a more being able to have regular in-person events sort of on a regular basis worldwide. I am hoping that we keep the good bits of the things we've learned from this year.
I hope so too. And I know
Mm.
that I'm supposed to answer for me, but I'm gonna like shower some SCA love on social media because we are majority existing on social media right now. So like the office not only matters to the SCA, the office is right now one of the primary ways people can consume the SCA safely. Uh, and then to relate it back to equity and inclusion, it allows so many more people to participate across such a wide variety of things. Um, that, like you, I really hope that when things get back to normal and we can see people in person more regularly, we'll still be retaining these aspects of online participation so that people who can't always come in person or who won't be safe to go back right away or a plethora of things can still feel engaged and still enjoy the SCA for what it is.
And
Um,
we help as well. It's like the SEA knowledge base is phenomenal, but knowledge can be ephemeral if we don't capture it to a certain extent. And we are building knowledge sources of our knowledge, not of the historical work from which, but the knowledge of our people in ways and rates we've never done before. And that's phenomenal. But
yes,
yes, I also agree with you in terms of the accessibility factor. I get feedback from people on a regular basis that they're able to participate in ways that they may not have been able to do so, and that's brilliant.
Yes. Um, so DEI is the newest corporate office. Um, and many other nonprofits, many other organizations have this, and many more are beginning this. So this is a very modern kind of contemporary concern. The thing is, when we think about members of marginalized groups and things that they have experienced historically, as well as what they're going through now, we're not thinking about just a small group of people, right? The policies that this office has been responsible for moving forward include things related to disability and accessibility, include things for the LGBTQ plus community, include things for members of marginalized groups in terms of race, in terms of age, in terms of many things. What this office is about belonging and about getting people the opportunity to participate and giving them a chance to see if the SCA is the right place for them. We want everyone to look in and see a space for themselves. And then it's up to them whether or not they want to step into it. So for me, I think this is super important for us continuing to be a welcoming community, particularly as we're starting to really see some of these issues with accessibility in some of our sites. We're starting to see people recognize when some behavior becomes a little bit more problematic. And I fundamentally believe that the SCA is a community of people where 99% of people absolutely value one another, respect one another, and will do better for everyone if they only know how. And so that's why I think this office being here to provide education, to provide a platform for people to talk about their concerns, their experiences, um, to provide examples for moving forward with better inclusivity. I think it's really important. I think it's what's going to help us continue to thrive as we just continue to grow as a community.
I think one of the things that I know I've learned from sort of doing some of the sessions and things like that is it's the we don't always know when a door appears closed, you know, and we're so excited and passionate about our hobby that we want as many people to play it as possible. But we don't always know that people are looking at it and going, because we're thinking we're opening a door, because we've never learned how to do it differently.
Mhm.
So I think the expansion of our game offers so many opportunities to all of us. It's a really exciting thing, and I'm very proud to be able to support the work that you do. It's pretty damn cool. So
I also love how
and
you I love it.
so it's just yeah. I I think we are new officers because the SCA is learning and growing and changing and adapting. And that's why we're an organization that has lasted as long as it has. And that's why we'll be an organization that will last at least another 50 years, if not more.
I agree.
So, okay. Ooh, it's an even question. So that makes it mine. Thank you again to everybody who sent these in. We really appreciate them. It's been quite a fun little chat. So, okay, what's a band that everyone should listen to?
Oh, The Cure. No problem. Everyone
I
should.
tell you, I saw The Cure last
No
year
way.
at the Sydney Opera House. It was amazing. They played the entire Disintegration album.
Oh
We'll
my
nerd about. Yeah, all right.
I'm
We'll nerd about this offline. So
I've never seen them live. Oh my god, I'm so jealous.
twice.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, so I love The Cure. I've loved The Cure my entire life. Um, I feel like they have such a range of available music for any mood. Like, it doesn't matter how you're feeling. There's something you can be listening to. And oh my god, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. I literally was putting on my makeup to Prayers for Rain. I'm so jealous.
As you can probably tell, Jessica and I did not actually rehearse the answers to any of these questions. So we may occasionally surprise ourselves through the whole business. I'm gonna shout out for a band called Gang of Youths, which is an Australian band, which is awesome, really good rock. Um, I would suggest that anybody who likes great rock have a listen to it. Um, and if anyone wants to get a bit of a feel for what the Australian indie scene is like, you can have a look on Spotify or other sort of other sources for the Triple J Hottest 100 will give you a really great idea about Australian sort of. It's a big national countdown that's done every year for,
Oh, okay.
and they get like 1 million votes for it. It's really big.
Is that like our
So yeah,
Billboard?
sorry.
Is that like Billboard here? Do you guys have Billboard?
Um, yes, we have Billboard.
Oh, sorry.
In Australia, it's the ARIA charts because it's the Australian record industry. But I also, yeah. Oh, and the other one is Thelma Plum is this amazing Aboriginal artist who did this. Like, it's just, everyone should listen to Better in Black. It's a phenomenal album. It's just absolutely great.
You should send me these later.
I will do this.
And I will continue to be jealous that you've seen the cute
Twice. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite SCA accessory?
I have a cleaver. I don't even have to think about this one. I have a replica Scappy cleaver, which is this absolutely beautiful, and we can post up some links to this sort of stuff in the chat a bit later. But as you've worked out, I'm a cook. That's my jam. But yeah, so Master Owen Van Norden, who is a metalworking laurel, but he's a maker. He's a maker of things. He made me this absolutely beautiful replica Scappy cleaver that I love with all of my heart. And it's really good. Like, it's got a good rock on it. So even if you're just doing stuff like chopping herbs and stuff like that, it's great. It has a bit like that Mezzaluna, but it's great for duck and it's great for all different sorts of big jobs. So yeah, my Scappy cleaver is my absolute favorite SCA accessory. What's yours?
Oh, I see accessory. So I'm gonna go 2, right?
Okay.
So I have a token. Oh my god, it's here. I can actually grab it. Oh, Jesus. Thank God I'm so messy. So these are my tokens. And I give these out to people because I don't know, someone said I could, and I was like, cool. So these are little Ethiopian baskets.
Oh wow.
And I have friends that travel to Ethiopia and they bring them back for me. So I have like 100 of these and I give them out when I can see people in real life. And I totally owe you one. And it's just kind of my like, here, you did a cool thing. And I think you're awesome token. So it's kind of an accessory and it's kind of just something that I give to people, but I'm gonna call it an accessory. And then as far as actual accessory, I got given a court barony earlier this year during
A very well deserved court barony.
And I love cornets. Like I don't know what I was missing, but I basically like it's pandemic times and I'm not traveling. So I was like, all this money on these cornets. I have 4. I love them. I am so excited to like wear my coronet. I feel so fancy. It makes me so happy. My neighbors have come to the door while I was on a Zoom call and I had to answer the door in my coronet and full garb and they were like, "Are you wearing a crown?" And I'm like,
Yes, I am.
"It's And now my neighbors are like, and they get their kids and they're like, she wears a crown around. I'm like, don't. Anyway, I love my coronet. I would wear it every day if I wouldn't get strange looks.
Yeah. And if you think that there is someone out there who deserves an amazing coronet, you should write a recommendation.
Yes, write award recommendations.
Yeah.
Give your friends cool things.
Yes.
Make them as happy as me.
She's very, very happy.
I am. Um, all right.
Okay, so I think we're on to the next question. All right, so where do you see your office going next?
All right. So this is a hard one. And I answered this question kind of recently on a different show. Um, I feel like I don't know. And I'll tell
Mhm.
you why. When I took this job, we were still having things in person. And I had a plan, right? I had this amazing plan, and it was going to include going to different kingdoms in person and getting a feel for different kingdom cultures, and then making plans based on that, having kingdom DEI officers in a year where they could speak better to the climate and culture for each place. And then everything changed and everything blew up. And so we have a ton of Kingdom DEI officers already, and they're doing work, and they're creating classes and teaching classes and doing all kinds of things. And now everything that I had planned to do in the real meat space of life, I now am doing virtually. And all of my kind of mental resources have gone towards setting up digitization of classes, which we're working on now, um, teaching online, which I do frequently, multiple times a week. You can just email me about that, or I teach every Wednesday. Everything is for a virtual environment. And I have to keep channeling my resources towards creating that because I don't know when we're going to be back to the everyday as I had previously envisioned it. So until I get a better idea of when that is and what that looks like, uh, we're gonna keep doing virtual stuff. We're gonna keep teaching classes. I've got a new class coming up that's gonna be based on practical stuff about living with equity and inclusion, and it's gonna be all based on what is it like not procedurals, but there's gonna be actual examples that people can
So
act out.
people's lived experiences that are helping
Yeah,
to inform what.
I think it's gonna be a lot of fun and it's gonna be really interactive, which I think will be super cool. And then in terms of policy, I mean, we all saw kind of the corpora intro go by. We're gonna keep examining policy and see what needs to be done there. Uh, I'm working with the Seneschalate on more training for officers. It's just kind of more of the virtual environment stuff. And then as soon as we get a go to shift back to real life, we gotta make new plans.
Well,
So
I think it's an exciting thing though, because yeah, you sort of sit there and then things escalate, but then you're actually thinking about the fact that you've got a foundation that you've been able to spread, like, known worldwide without actually, in a way that you may not have been able to initially. So,
it's true.
um,
That part's cool.
you know,
How about you?
oh, okay, me. Um, I had briefly forgotten I was also going to answer that question. Um, um, I think so. For me, one of the things that we're looking at is about making sure that the SCA is on platforms that reach our audiences. Currently, at the moment, 98% of the social media that happens to the SCA is happening on Facebook. And that's an amazing thing, but there's an opportunity for expansion. So we've been working on building our Insta feed um, at SCA Social. Find and follow us. Um, you know, hashtag my SCA, or if you've got cool SCA stuff, regram my SCA. So we've been building that because the demographics of platforms change, and we need to make sure that we're in the spaces. One of the tricks about marketing is not making people come to you; you need to go to them. So that's what we're investigating at the moment. We'll probably look at TikTok, hopefully in the next year. So if anybody is a TikTok wizard who would like to come and talk to me, please hit me up at socialmedia@sca.org because I think there's some really great opportunities in that platform for us. But I'd like to talk to other people who are already using it on a more regular basis than I am. I'm always open to learning from things. The other thing is that we're doing some work at the policy level because our policy evolved And because like you, we're a newer office, so the policy has been growing with the office. So at the moment, we're making sure that we have a policy that's really fit for purpose, and we're hoping to have that out in sometime in the next couple of months. We're getting a lot of support from the board, so that's really appreciated. Um, so those would probably be the two big things that I would be sort of saying.
My odds. I'm odds.
Your odds. See, it's a well-oiled machine.
Uh, okay. What is one thing you wish everyone realized about your office?
I'm gonna flip this slightly in terms of that. Um, which is, I think, the one thing that I want everyone to remember about social media is that you hear a lot of talk in the media, or when people will talk about social media did this and social media did that. This is happening, and oh, this is social media's fault, or this is the result of social media. Um, it's actually the result of people. So if you think about it, social media is just a technology. It's a tool for facilitating online conversations where someone can talk back to you. That's in sort of like that's what social media is. So I want you to remember that every time you put like sort of fingers to keyboard or hit your touch screen or anything, there are people on the end of the things that you are saying. And a bit like when you read that, you need to remember that you are reading something that somebody wrote as a person. Social, like online interactions, like emojis are great because they help us give context and they're a non-verbal way of communicating how someone might be trying to feel. But we lose a lot of nuance when you do that sort of stuff. So people may not have actually intended how something has been read. Um, so we need to, and I am an absolute firm believer that everybody is trying their best. It doesn't mean that their best may be working for me, but if I remember and approach something from the fact that everybody is trying their best, I need to remember that in the story I tell myself about how I'm consuming what I read on social media. Now, some of that does not in any way make bad behavior acceptable, but give people a little bit of grace and breathe before you respond to things. Take a breath. Not every thought that you have needs to go on social media. Um, it's just one of those things. And that's harder in a pandemic when we're all sort of looking for connection and engagement. Because for some people, social media may be their only interaction with people. So that generates a certain type of behavior. So I want people to remember that there are people at the end of everything you say and that people are trying their best. You know? And it can move faster than you think. Have no expectations of privacy. It's just one of those things. As soon as you put it onto the internet, no matter the security settings, you have to deal with the risk that someone else could pick it up out of context and it could travel. So, yeah, think, you know, think, remember there are people involved. Have a good time, use it as the tool that it is, but be kind to yourself and others.
Yeah, I could not agree with any of that more. Um, oh, it's me. What do I wish people realized about DEI? So I guess because we're still so new and we're still kind of building the plane while we're flying it. Um, people think a lot of different things, and people don't super understand what's happening. And I talked really briefly earlier about how I wish people understood that we are not investigatory, but rather education and advisory.
Mm.
I think I think the idea that you brought up of you may not always realize when the door is shut for other people is so big. Uh, because so many people don't understand that for many people in the SCA, every event, every practice, every meeting, there are a million considerations that they're making that other people may not have to ever worry about. And I think that's really at the heart of a lot of equity and inclusion, right? I don't go to events and think about, hey, I wonder what the terrain is like. Because I am not currently in a mobility device. So that's not something that occurs to me. Um, What I do look at sometimes is what part of the country is it in? What part of the state is it in? Is this a city that is historically problematic for people that look like me? Um, Many people don't know what a sundown town is. And it's a little heavy for this conversation, but it is a place where discrimination was baked into the makeup of a town. And so some of that holds over, and sometimes it's not always safe for people who look a certain way to stay there. And so people don't always think about these things, right? They think about the SCA as this amazing, welcoming place, and it is. But other people have had different experiences of the SCA that you have. I kind of laugh because while we're all playing the same game, we are none of us playing the same game. And our game is unique to the company we have and our friends and our household and our interest. And because we can do so many different things across so many different categories, my SCA looks very different than your SCA, and that's wonderful. That's great. That means we all have an experience that is able to be tailored. But I don't always think people understand that in some ways, some people's experiences are harder. And this office is here to try to listen for when those people say, "Hey, I need help. I need more. I need policies to support me, and I need people to understand this about who I am." Uh, so that's what I wish people really understood and internalized, so that they didn't think that this office was here to take away the fun part. It's here to make the fun part accessible for everyone. Pun not intended.
Are you sure? You know? Yeah, I think it's that thing of just there's sometimes there are things that we don't have to think about. Like every single one of us, there are things that we don't have to think about that someone else might. And just remembering that and using some of the tools that your office is helping to develop just helps us do that. So it makes thank you for making our lives easier, you know, because it's just about that. So we've been going for about an hour. What we'll probably do is do two more of the questions that we've had submitted. Um, and then we might throw to any questions that people have. So we've got a couple of the ones that were in the chat, but feel free to pop them down below. You know, so we okay, so we're an even question, which makes it my question. This is an excellent system we came up with. You know, who inspires you in the SCA?
Oh my gosh, so many people.
I know,
So many
right?
people. Um, so I'm gonna name a bunch of people because it is true, and I am a big fan of spreading love. So I have to start with Giada, who is the person that held this office in the interim while they were interviewing applicants. She is currently on the bod. She is a Laurel. She's a delight. She's just amazing. Um, she's hilarious and she's fun and she's incredibly capable and just has done wonders with this office as far as getting a good foundation laid and then continue to support me in it basically the whole way. I can't say enough good things about her. I just want to shower her with rose petals every room that she walks into. If y'all don't know her, you should because she's wonderful. Um, you are one of the people that inspires me because you have absolutely done amazing things over this pandemic with situations that other people would have been like, I am going back to bed for the next year. Um, and you have not only dealt with all of that, you have done it often from thousands of miles away. Um, and that's incredible to me. Bear Killer is a great boss. He
Oh my
kills
God.
it. He carries the weight of the world on his shoulders and he still manages to laugh at the end of the day. And it's incredible. And the people in the corporate office who work behind the scenes, Renee and Leslie, amazing. They keep track of all of this administrative stuff. We have a really small team. It is,
Tiny.
it is hard for them to lift as much as they do. consistently. And then, I could go through a whole list of people in my kingdom who inspire me. Queen, who the person who was queen when I was first in the SCA, Duchess Amelie, basically made my SCA experience what it is because she laid a foundation that stuck with me forever. My peers, Maggie and Jeff and Harley are all amazing. Um, all of the SCA shows that go on right now, right? We've both been on Between Two Peers with Araya and Sarah, and they're amazing for doing what they do.
Live from Kaid, which is brilliant.
Live from Kaid is awesome. Greg Bayorn, killing it.
No, just
It's
Outlands royalty, just crowns between two ropes. Yeah, sorry. No, check out the Known World Entertainment Guide. There is so much good stuff happening.
Check out the Known World Entertainment Guide. My deputies are amazing too. So Drew and Olivia and Eliyahu, you're all great. I literally can't. I could list people for the next hour, and if I haven't said your name, it's only because I am probably gonna have to shut up soon. But I am so inspired by so many people in the SCA. It is such an amazing community that, I mean, it's my family, and I can't help but be inspired by all of the people who have been there for me in this really challenging year. You, I'll stop talking.
You hit a bunch of people, and I'm going to start off by giving the love right back. The things that you are doing with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office are amazing, and they are making the game bigger, and that's a really exciting thought. And you do it for people who are scared, who don't understand it, who might find that the things that they're talking about is challenging, and you do it with grace and kindness and openness to hearing them, and that's a really phenomenal thing. And so many of our DEI officers, so one of the things that people might not know is as Society Social Media, I sit on every kingdom group in the known world. So don't ever just go, she's ignoring me. I may have just lost you in my notifications. They can go a little insane. And I see the things that are being done right across the known world, and it is phenomenal. So from an accessibility thing, the things that our DEI officers are doing, I cannot praise the social media officers of your kingdoms enough. They are doing so much work and trying to think of so many different things. The admin teams that support to help make spaces safe for everyone to play in our online environment. They are just that. As you sort of said, Bear Killer, the corporate officers, the people who do stuff that you don't like. You sort of mentioned, sort of, you mentioned Renee and Leslie in the corporate office itself. But then we've also got people like Rusty, who makes all of our IT work, and we've got Kelly, who works in communications, and and then we have all our society level officers who are continuing to build and evolve their offices. I'm going to give a shout out to the Crowns, who some of them have, like, these are very different reigns, and they are thinking about their people and how they can support their people through that. And that's been pretty amazing to look and to listen. And to help support where we can. There's also, like our Seneschalette are the bomb. It's just, our Seneschalette just rock my world on so many levels because they are working so hard. And the thing that I'm not sure people realize is I have seen over and over and over again in this game, in the number of years that I have played, which is less than the number of years that Bear Killer has played. He's so old. I'm in so much trouble. Yeah. So, but it's just that sort of they are continually looking for ways to say yes to your ideas. They are things that are looking at how they can make your idea happen in a way that is compliant with our legal requirements that we have as a modern organization. But seneschals are over and over again looking for ways to say yes. So when you get a no, remember that, because they will have looked at that and there will have been things. So listen for ideas and opportunities and everything, because our seneschals are amazing. I'd also like to sort of say that I am inspired by our newcomers. Um, and newcomers inspire me on a really regular basis because they bring fresh eyes and they bring fresh enthusiasm. And occasionally, when you know how the sausages worked, or you've been doing this for a long time, or you're having a bad sort of thing in your everyday life, and then you've brought that to your SCA, your newcomers are the people who bring you joy and excitement, and they help you remember what you saw. And that's just brilliant. That's really, really exciting. Um, there are so many more people I could speak of locally, like, my barony, my household, my all of those people are just brilliant. But I have never found a community that is as accepting and as committed to making this the best game possible that the SCA has. Like your point earlier, that 99.9% of the SCA is looking for ways to make it the best game possible. I have never found another community that has had that level of proportion of awesome. So we should be really proud of that, and we should celebrate that on a regular basis. And you could do that by writing an award recommendation. Just saying. See what I did there?
Very sneaky.
Yeah, see? Just do it.
Can I
What
pick a random
soapbox?
question to end mine? There's so
Yeah.
many left. Can I pick one?
Yeah. Did you yes.
I did answer. I had a list, and I
Yes,
could
you did. You did. I remember now. Sorry.
keep going. Okay, I like 19.
Okay.
How would you sum up what your office does for the SCA in one word?
Connection. Absolutely connection. Um, it helps us connect on a personal level, it helps connect us to the wider game, and it also connects us to the outside world and shows that we're a modern professional organization that has opportunities for everybody. So that's probably the greatest thing that I think that my office does for the SEA is it connects people.
I love
You?
I'm gonna go with belonging.
Yeah.
I think I think the SCA can be a space where everyone, regardless of social group, status, ability, anything, I think that this is a place potentially for them. Um, and I think that the work this office does, the officers across the known world, and hopefully what we're building here at the corporate level, I hope that that's what people will take away is the idea that we are making it so that people can belong no matter who they are or where they've come from.
There is a
That's
space
very
for
important.
them and they are wanted and welcome.
Yes, absolutely. Um, Such a good one. So if anyone has any other questions, we got a couple questions. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, and then if anyone has any other questions, now is the time to drop them in chat. And otherwise, I think we're going to wrap up. Does that sound
Mm.
good?
I am just going to say we got a question about SEA, like what invention would make
Mhm.
your SEA life easier, and I'm just going to say teleportation.
Oh my god!
Teleportation would
Yes,
just would rock my world so hard because
yes,
yeah, I haven't made it over yet to travel to other kingdoms. It's like totally on my bucket list, and we had this little pandemic thing that happened, but like even that, so Australia, which is one part of our kingdom, it's not both parts because we're Australia and New Zealand. Australia is the size of the continental United States. Um, so if you can imagine going from your kingdoms on the west coast to your kingdoms on the east coast, that's what some of our people do to come to events. There are some
yeah,
events you only go to if you fly. So like even just in my own kingdom, it would be absolutely amazing to have teleportation. And then that would mean that Jessica and I could hang out and there could be parties and it would be amazing. So
yes. Honestly, I totally agree. The one SCA invention I need. Oh my god, teleportation. There are so many people, and now because of the pandemic, I've gotten to know so many people, and they're so far away. And I'm like, why? Why? Yes, that would be
Mm,
awesome.
mm.
Anyway,
Okay, so looking at some of the questions that we've gotten so far, um, so one of the questions that's asked is about your office and sort of looking at what are the sort of plans for developing the office in terms of like, are they looking at specific sort of training in particular areas, similar to what sort of other sort of large corporations might do?
sure, sure. So we have currently 4 or 5 different classes that we teach pretty regularly. Like I said, we are working through another training specifically that will talk about implementing some of these concepts. So taking them out of the realm of the hypothetical and into the practical application, which I think will be really useful for a lot of people who can't really envision um, how the concepts fit into their day-to-day SCA lives. Uh, Officers have taken different trainings, right? I know that the Middle Kingdom basically said all of the seneschals need to take the definitions and concepts course, and they did. And I taught it 4 times in a week, and we got all the seneschals through it. So a lot of that is on a kingdom by kingdom basis. There are also a lot of kingdom DEI officers who teach their different offices. Um, and then, of course, I do the weekly show here. We've had bystander intervention. We've had all kinds of different useful training for officers and anyone. And we do those every Wednesday, and then they are also kept up on the page. So people can go back and they can watch them whenever they would like to.
Yes, you can find them. And one of the things, just so people are aware, is we are looking to move more of them onto our YouTube channel as well to make
Yes.
sure that we're not platform restricted and that people can actually um, are able to basically access without needing potentially to sign up for a particular platform. So those plans are underway, and we are working at the moment to get that all happening. But as you can imagine, there's a large amount of data that just needs to be transferred, and then things like that. So a shout out to those people who work on the SCA YouTube channel. It is small, but we are mighty, and it will grow. So
Big.
big plans, so many plans. Um, I suppose just from my just to give people a bit of an idea, we're looking at a similar sort of thing at the moment. We're hoping to put a training proposal together for the board to help provide resources and tools for people who are new to using social media in an officer context, because it is a different thing to just hanging out in your normal environment, and because you speak as an your role and you speak for the kingdom or the board or the society or the canton or the college or something. So basically that so you have that dual responsibility, and like you see in large like other organizations, that's a learned that's the thing that sometimes comes with a bit of learning. So we're hoping to bring together some tools and some resources. So I would say look for those in 2021. Shout out to the Mid Realm; they have an amazing social media training program. So
This is
the
definitely my mid-round pale. um,
nice. Go. You know. But whereas I'm in my red and white for Politicopolis, which is my barony. So, you
we
know,
match so much.
you know. Um, so that's sort of happening in terms of being able to make sure, because the whole point of a corporate office is to enable your game. We want to make the game as safe and as accessible and as fun as possible. So we're looking at the different tools related to both our offices to be able to do that.
All right. Well, I think
Mm,
that about does it, right?
yeah. So
Mm.
let us know like how you found this as an experience. We did have a couple more questions that we received, but we might save that. If you'd like us to do another one of these again, we're really open to it. We're also open to arranging sort of these kind of sessions with other members longer term of the board, of the corporate office, how that all works. Um, one of the ideas that we have and that we're just sort of thinking is that we might find it interesting to be able to do this kind of thing with kingdom seneschals from across the known world too, because it's part of that interkingdom anthropology, and the seneschalate is such a really key office So it's getting people to sort of know and understand that. So that's one of the things we're looking at as a bit of an idea. So please comment below, let us know how you felt. Let us know ways we can improve. If you don't want to email it, feel free to email it either at equity@sca.org or social media at sca.org. We are really open to feedback because we want to learn and we want to make things better.
Absolutely. And thank you so much to everyone for tuning in and for sending in questions. We really could go all night, but we won't. um, and yeah, we are open to doing this again. We'll pull in whoever you guys want to see, and yeah, we will demystify the corporate office.
Thank you all for your time. We'll see you next time, guys. Take care. Be
Bye.
safe. Bye.